Hey everyone, this is Matt.
My name is Josh.
And this is Joe. You're listening to the Recklessly Skeptical Podcast.
Whoa, that was aggressive.
Yes.
Today is January 15th, 2017.
Woohoo!
Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day, guys.
Right
Or
on.
Tomorrow, but weekend.
It's the weekend of it.
I get the extra day off. I'm happy with it.
I don't.
Why
This
don't?
is bullshit.
I don't get it off either.
Do you get President's Day off?
No.
Oh, well, then it is bullshit.
Yeah. This is my only day off this week. It's today. And here I am.
Here you are.
Here I am.
Don't sound all sorts of resentful.
Thanks, guys. No, I'm just kidding. I don't mind being here. We haven't been here for a while, though.
Yeah, football, those damn playoffs getting in the way and shit.
Football and then all sorts of other crap. And
Christmas and...
there was one day, what was it, you guys? Oh, are we doing it tomorrow? And I was like, or I said I can't come in because Marley was up till 3 o'clock. Marley is my 1.5-year-old daughter, but she was up till 3, and I couldn't get her to sleep. And then finally I got her to sleep, and then she like woke up an hour later and just like on and off. And so by the time it was time to do the podcast, I was just sitting there like a zombie.
Yep, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no kids.
And I was up kind of late last night taking care of Holly. She was throwing up and stuff because we went out to eat, and I think she got food poisoning or something because halfway through the meal she started getting nauseous and sick, and then we went home and she didn't even make it inside the house, and she was in the driveway.
And just in case you're wondering, Holly is Joe's fiance.
My fiance.
Yep.
Alrighty, well, let's move on to the stolen thought, the quote of the day.
No.
So,
What, you don't like my personal stories?
Well, I mean, is that going to be the whole podcast?
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys for listening. It's been
Alrighty, so this quote comes from Martin Luther King Jr. I thought it was fitting considering tomorrow's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So, quote, "In a pluralistic society such as ours, who is to determine what prayer shall be spoken and by whom? Legally, constitutionally, or otherwise, the state certainly has no such right."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King Jr.
And that's coming from a religious man. Wasn't he a minister? Yeah, he was a
Baptist.
minister. Yeah, Baptist minister, religious, and he understood the concept of separation of church and state, and not only understood it, but supported it.
Yeah.
So,
Which is super cool.
yeah. Alrighty. So our first story comes from Iceland, you guys.
Ooh.
So, a poll done in Iceland recently revealed that 0% of Icelanders 25 years or younger believe God created the world. Hold on, the title's misleading because when you read it, it's they don't believe.
Yeah.
Right? Am I reading that funny? Created the world.
Yeah, 0% of Icelanders, 25 years or younger, believe God created the world.
Yes.
0 times anything becomes 0.
It's a little early today, you guys. Jesus. All right.
Were you up drinking last night?
I was.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
Holly was sitting there puking, being all sick, and I
Didn't
was
we
just
already hear about that?
drinking my wine, getting hammered. Like, it's okay, babe.
All right. So, Iceland seems to be on its way to becoming an even more secular nation, according to a new poll. Less than half of Icelanders claim they are religious, and more than 40% of young Icelanders identify as atheists. Remarkably, the poll failed to find young Icelanders who accept the creation story of the Bible. 93.9% of Icelanders younger than 25 believe the world was created in the Big Bang. 6.1% either had no opinion or thought it had come into existence through some other means, and 0% believed it had been created by God.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy. 0% is crazy. So the poll, which was conducted by the polling firm Maskina on behalf of CO Manet, the Icelandic Ethical Humanist Association, an association of Icelandic atheists, found that 46.4% of Icelanders identify as religious, which is the lowest figure to date.
And those 46.4 don't even take it that serious. Like when I I watched this documentary, and it's about this Southern Baptist priest, and he goes around the world, and he went to Iceland, and like he interviewed a lot of people, and like even the religious people in Iceland didn't really take it too serious.
Yeah, a very small number of them are like young Earth creationists.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that number is, but I'm sure it's fairly insignificant.
Yeah.
So, and then the article just goes on and gives more numbers. And this is coming from Iceland Magazine. So if you guys want to read more up on it, you can go check it out. But that's pretty crazy that under 25, nobody there believes that the world was created by God.
And they're getting hit by hurricanes and earthquakes and floods constantly, right?
Yeah. It's just a chaotic place. You probably don't want to move there.
And
There's probably tons of murders and
rapes and pillaging.
Yeah.
Yep. Worse than the United States, because we're a nation for God, under God, by God.
My God.
Remember that? Didn't we listen to a
yeah.
a
That one
preacher
dude.
video? For God, by God, under God, the God.
Over God.
Touching God.
So, yeah, that is that.
Well, I got a story, Matt.
Ooh, what's your story, Joe?
All right, this is coming from Big Think. Let's see here. It's an older article, but it's good. All right, science and religion are fighting it out in your brain, not just in a metaphorical sense, but in a real physical altercation. That's the conclusion drawn by researchers from Case Western Reserve University and Babson College. They found that people who believe in God or some spiritual essence suppress the brain network for analytical thinking and instead engage the empathetic network. When there's a question of faith from the analytic point of view, it may seem absurd, said the research team's leader, Professor Tony Jack. But from what we understand about the brain, the leap of faith to believe in the supernatural amounts to pushing aside the critical, analytical way of thinking to help us achieve greater social and emotional insight. The researchers conducted 8 experiments, each one with 159 to 527 adults, and found a correlation that the more empathetic person was, they were more likely religious. This also fits with a previous finding that women tend to be more religious or spiritual than men, which can now be explained by their stronger tendency towards empathy. On the flip side of that, atheists were found to be most aligned with psychopaths, people classified as such due to their lack of empathy. Take that, obnoxious college buddy. But no, it's a cool article. The researchers also concluded, probably controversially, that religious people tend to be not as smart or perhaps intelligent is not as important to characteristic to them. So our studies confirmed that statistically relationship, but at the same time showed that people with faith are more pro-social and empathetic, said Richard Boyatzis, a Case Western University Reserve professor. The research is based on the previous fMRI study by the team that showed the human brain having an analytical network of neurons that allowed for critical thought in opposition to a social network that enabled empathy. Since humans are wired to use both networks, a math problem or an ethics question would trigger one of the networks while suppressing the other. So according to Jack, that may be the key to why beliefs in the supernatural exist throughout the history of cultures. It appeals to an essential, non-material way of understanding the world and our place in it.
Gotcha. So it has to do with empathy networks as opposed to logic networks? Interesting.
Yeah. So there was a guy who was on Sam Harris's podcast recently talking about morality. And I know we've discussed this before, talking about how empathy is one piece within the foundation of how morality is built, right?
Yeah,
I think we all agree on that.
Yes.
Now, this individual who I can't remember his name, he went on Sam Harris's podcast. He recently wrote a book, and he is arguing that empathy is the wrong thing that we should use to base our morality on. And that it actually can cloud your judgment in certain aspects, and that we should be using logic and reason to build our morality. It's a very interesting podcast. So I bring that up because a religious person might read that article and be like, yeah, we're more empathetic. Our morality is better. And I think this guy is right that we shouldn't use empathy to build our morality, but use logic and reason, maybe with a little bit of empathy in there, but it's not solidly based on empathy.
Yeah.
So
see, Matt, you're a psychopath.
That's fine. See, I'm trying to reason why we don't need empathy. That sounds a little psychopathic, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Alrighty. Anything else, Joe?
No. If anybody wants to check out that article, I'm sure you can just Google it. The name of the article is blah, 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 blah. Religious people are less smart, but atheists are psychopaths. But no, it's an interesting read, and it's an interesting study, so check it out.
All right. And my first story comes from I Fucking Love Science, or IFLscience.com, and the title of it is More Fast Radio Bursts Have Been Detected from Auriga. So if you're in to read this, and it doesn't have an author, I guess, but to read this, if you're interested in catching a mysterious fast radio burst, it appears that the best option is to look at the constellation of Auriga, the Charioteer, where 17 fast radio bursts have been detected. They were all emitted by a single source, and astronomers have reason to be excited as this is the only repeating FRB discovery earlier this year. And this unique find, named FRB 121102, has deepened the mystery of these phenomenon. Fast radio bursts are incredibly high-energy phenomenon. They are quick flash of radio waves which only last a few milliseconds. They were discovered in 2011, and since many explanations have been put forward to explain what remains without explanation, including outlandish and improbable alien communication systems. And to skip ahead a little bit, this is a quote from, let me see, the author of the paper. It says, our discovery of repeating bursts from FRB 121102 shows that for at least one source, the origin of the burst cannot be cataclysmic, and further must be able to repeat on short, less than 1 minute timescales. Whether FRB 121102 is a unique object in the currently known sample of fast radio bursts, or all fast radio bursts are capable of repeating. Its characteristic is extremely important to understand the fast extragalactic radio transients. So, yeah, there's
something interesting going on.
Yes, definitely.
And, there's another story. I guess it's kind of like this. I don't remember if we've talked about it. So you guys know how they detect planets. They see the sun, the way they do it, they see the sun wobble.
Yeah.
And they know there's something
star.
going around it. Or a star, yes. Because ours is called the sun.
Yes.
So there's something they could tell going around this star that didn't look right.
Oh, are you talking about the alien megastructure?
Yeah, they were saying it could be built, something, a structure. Yeah. But I listened to another podcast where they were talking about it, and they're like, there's nothing we can really say about it, whether it's alien or it's just something we don't understand. And I think this kind of falls in the category, but it's crazy to think about the possibility of it being, alien.
Intelligent life,
yes.
And for me, like Carl Sagan in his book, and actually a couple of his books, but and I can't remember the name of the one that I'm thinking of. I think it was the one that goes along with the science show that he had on television. Cosmos, he talked about that according to probability that they were able to work with at the time, that there should be life in our galaxy, and that it was highly likely that there was life in our galaxy. And I mean, like, we haven't found it yet, and we don't know what to look for yet, but it's cool that we have like some ideas of what we might look for to try and find it. And so, like, fast radio bursts might be one sign. Also, like heavy galactic structures. I mean, maybe eventually we'll see something that's makes more sense, like laser beams. It's highly unlikely, given the laws of the universe as we understand them, that we'll actually have somebody show up at our doorstep.
Yeah.
But what's more likely is that we'll see like radio waves or signals or lasers or something like that. Just we'll catch that before we see anything else. If there is other intelligent life, and so hopefully. And what frustrates me is hopefully someday we'll be able to grow up enough as a species to take care of our planet and then build something that allows us to explore. Like we could be exploring the next closest star in I think it was 80, 90 years. We can send something that fast to there, but we're not willing to spend money in that build. So,
Yeah. Well, it'd be cool once we get that EM drive, kicking out enough power.
Yeah, well, that still needs to scale up, and there's reasons to be semi-skeptical about it, and there's no problem with being skeptical about it, and hopefully when it does get scaled up, it works as scientists are hoping it does.
Yeah.
And hopefully with this new administration, we don't lose funding to our earth sciences and cosmos.
Yeah, and too many things. And we need to be exploring our oceans, too. Because we're finding new species every day. I saw an article yesterday. They're like, new species found, and we could go into the depths, and find different species and we need to learn, what they say, like when you want to fall in love and be with the right person, you gotta love yourself, and you gotta know who you are before you can learn who someone else is. You know what I mean? And I honestly think we need to learn more about our own planet. I do think we need to travel and look up, and
But our politics.
But I think learning more about our planet would be great.
Joe just put a little love twist on science.
I have empathy
Joe
towards our planet.
Joe has empathy towards himself.
Mm.
He loves himself.
Mm-hmm. As much as I love this here coffee that's not swarming with alcohol, Matt.
Alrighty, so anything else, Josh?
No, that's it.
All right, so the next story we got is coming from the Freedom From Religion Foundation. And hey, guys, this is my secular story.
Yay!
Secular. All right, so a court fails to uphold New Jersey bar on church funding in FFRF case.
What?
So, yeah, this is bullshit. A New Jersey state court has decided that tax dollars can be utilized to repair or maintain churches, despite a state constitutional provision barring such use.
What?
Superior Court Judge Margaret Goodzeit, she sounds like a fucking Nazi. No, I'm just kidding. Ruled on January 9th against the Freedom From Religion Foundation's challenge of Morris County's church funding practices. FFRF and member David Skakiti filed suit in late 2015 against Morris County, challenging public grants of tax dollars to repair or maintain churches. FFRF with David, a taxpayer in Morris County, contested more than $5.5 million in grants to churches since 2012 by the board's Historic Preservation Trust Fund. FFRF specifically challenged $1 million in allotments to Presbyterian Church in Morristown to allow continued use by our congregation for worship services. So that right there, if you were paying attention, they're using the money under the Historic Preservation Trust Fund. So they're saying these are historical sites, but the church in Morristown, they're using it, quote, to continued use by our congregation for worship services. So they're using it as a church to worship. Yeah. That's why they're saying they're using this money, but the money is the government is saying the money's going for historic preservation trust fund.
Yeah. So I get what they're trying to do there. They're saying, "Oh, hey, this is a historic building, we need to preserve it," but they're also still using it as a place of worship. And this makes me think of an interview I saw with Trevor Noah last night, where he was questioning, and he was playing devil's advocate, and he was questioning one of the ladies from Planned Parenthood, and playing devil's advocate, he said, "Well, what do you say to people who think that our tax dollars shouldn't go to something that they don't agree with?" And she responded that none of the tax dollars go towards abortion, and that the women's health services and the health services that they offer, which are some of the only health care access that some people have, goes to a majority of it has nothing to do with abortion, like the vast majority of it. And then I'm sure that the same people turn around and are totally fine with them using money that we don't agree with going towards repairing and keeping up a church.
Yeah.
And the other thing, it's not like this church is paying taxes. I'm sure that
Exactly.
they're not.
And Planned Parenthood, I assume, don't they pay some sort of tax?
Well, on the money, on any profits that they might make, they're a non-profit organization,
Okay.
so they probably don't.
I guess the argument is Planned Parenthood is actually providing a real service.
Yeah.
Where a church, they might do a little bit of charity work, but what they're selling is
Well,
a fucking fake product.
but it's not even that. Like if it was, so say it was like the church that Martin Luther King had, and it was now a historic site in a museum. I have no problem with tax dollars going to something like that.
Yeah.
But if you have it as an open place of worship, then of course money shouldn't go there. I mean, like they tithe people for a reason to keep up the building and to make the preacher have a living salary. But the problem with American culture today is we have no problem with preachers taking out as much money as they can and using tax breaks and money from taxpayers to keep up the structures. Whatever they can use, they'll take. So they have more money in their pockets and more money going to their message.
All right, so to continue on from the article, it's especially disappointing that this ruling came down the same week we will be celebrating the anniversary of Thomas Jefferson's landmark Virginia statue for religious liberty, says FFRF co-president Annie Laurie Gaylor. That pioneering legislation provided the template for New Jersey's wise constitutional bar against forcing citizens to support or repair places of worship. And if anybody out there knows about Thomas Jefferson and what is on that statue for religious liberty, he would absolutely be against this money going to the church.
Oh yeah.
Since it's one of my favorite quotes, if it's not a problem, I'd like to pull it up.
Pull it up, Josh.
Pull it up.
All
Pull
right.
it up.
So,
Did you pull it up? He just gave me the dirtiest look.
while Josh is doing that, Joe, who plays tonight? Pittsburgh Steelers
Oh, do they?
going to the Super Bowl
Right on.
if they win this game.
Did the Jazz win last night?
I don't.
Yeah, they did.
I was watching part of the game while we were out to eat, and they had it neck and neck several times last night. And then when I left, I think it was the end of the second half, or the first half. Sorry. Then Holly got sick, so I wasn't able to.
Yeah, they won, and they did it in the fourth quarter down the stretch. They went on they were down by 5, and they went on a 9-0 run, went up by 4, and then closed out strong with 2 more 3-pointers from Mr. Joe Ingles.
Nice.
So it was a beautiful thing to watch.
They're fifth, right, in the division, or
Yeah, they're now 5th. Okay, so the part that I want to read, it's the last paragraph. It's a few paragraphs long, but here's what he said. Be it enacted by General Assembly that no man should be compelled to frequent or support any religious worship, place, or ministry whatsoever, nor shall be enforced, restrained, molested, or burdened, burthened in his body or goods, nor shall suffer or otherwise suffer on account of religious opinion or belief, but all men shall be free to profess by argument to maintain their opinions on matters of religion, and the same shall no wise diminish, enlarge, or affect their civil capacities.
Yeah. So what they're doing in New Jersey
it's completely against all that.
goes completely against that.
But, I mean, our founding fathers were all Christian and totally wanted us all to be Christian.
Yeah, this is a
We're
Christian nation.
We're all traitors for even discussing things like atheism and criticizing religion.
Alrighty, so
Is it my turn?
it's Joe's turn.
Woo! All right, guys. I know a lot of my science stories I talk about, climate change.
Is this a science story?
Well, it's one.
Oh, well, you should choose one. I can't say a thing. I'm not going to do a theme song every time.
Oh, okay. Did I already do more of a science one? I don't remember doing a science one.
Well, no. Is this your science story?
Oh, yes. Okay. I see.
Science.
Joe. No? Come on. Let me have a little fun. I bet you anything Bill Nye listens to our podcast.
Do you think Bill Nye listens to himself and sings his own theme song?
Hell yeah, he does. Bill Nye's badass. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah,
Who's
Matt.
not.
What do you think, Matt?
Come on,
You're
Matt.
across the room.
I'm back, guys. Bill Nye does not listen to his own song.
But he probably listens to mine, and he's like, yeah, every time. You think he does?
No.
No? Come on, man. I wear a bow tie.
I'm gonna give you the honest truth, Joe. No one listens to this podcast.
Nobody does? Then what in the hell are we doing this for? All right, okay. So this is coming from Science Alert, okay? And so this article was written on the 23rd of December. I saved it that long ago because we haven't done a podcast since then and stuff.
So
but-
2 days before Jesus' birthday?
Yeah, 2 days before Jesus' birthday.
All right.
Okay, so a weather buoy floating about 90 miles south of the North Pole registered at 0.4 degrees Celsius. That is 32.7 Fahrenheit on the 22nd of December. Okay? 90 miles south of the North Pole. Okay? And if the North Pole follows suit as expected, it will have officially hit melting point. Temperatures in the Arctic are now 30 degrees Celsius, which is 54 Fahrenheit, above normal for this time of year because according to the Norwegian Meteorological Institute, the region should be around minus 30 Celsius, which is minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit and stuff. And it's all the way up at 54 degrees Fahrenheit.
That sucks.
Yeah. This is the second time in the past 5 weeks we've seen such a steep rise in temperatures, and it's like nothing we've seen in more than half a century. In reviewing historical records back to 1958, one cannot find a more intense anomaly. Expect following a similar spike just 5 weeks ago. Jason Samenow reports for the Washington Post.
But that doesn't matter, Joe, because it snowed here in Utah a lot.
Yeah, and like what happened, kind of, I did a little bit of research on what was going on, is that the polar vortex that usually is up on the North Pole, keeping the North Pole frozen, moved down south and hit the northern United States. So I'm sure Mr.
Snowball guy.
Engel, I have like one of its videos, but it doesn't matter. I'm sure he was like, "Yo, look, it's cold outside.
It snowed.
It snowed. See, it's not getting warm. It's not getting...
I don't
warm.
I don't know if those
Global
people,
warming.
I don't know if those people understand the difference between weather and climate.
Well,
No.
Of course, it's and he might. Like that's the thing. Like we can't. It's hard to tell the difference between ignorance and
Lying?
lying. Yeah. Like he could be really, really dumb when it comes to science change and really, really believe in his God and think that God wouldn't allow the earth to fall apart. Or he could be taking corporate money from the oil companies and doing that. Like,
Yeah.
who knows?
Well, you know, I mean, if the oil companies came to me and told me to start spreading shit that wasn't true and offered me $5 million, I might just do it.
Yeah, it's
Did you hear that?
Senator,
Oil companies?
Senator Inhofe.
$5 million? $5 million?
Yeah, and then you got Joe on your side.
I'm on your side. $5 million bucks. Let's do this.
Isn't oil good for the world?
Yeah, it's way good.
Dude, and that's the thing. You're going to talk about this guy. Sessions talked about how he called CO2 plant food.
What?
Well, I mean,
Are you serious?
Yeah, but so like the thing is plants need CO2 to build carbon.
Yeah.
Because they take the carbon out of the air and use it to as part of their structure, which is cool because if you think about it, that means trees literally grow out of the air. They're not pulling stuff from the ground to become tall trees. They're pulling stuff from the air.
Yeah.
But it's cool to think about, and plants grow faster in high CO2 situations. That's why greenhouses often have more CO2 in them than the
Than
Earth.
not.
But he's completely misrepresenting the whole point of that. The whole point of that is CO2 is a greenhouse gas, and it's going to cause the temperature of the planet to raise, which is going to cause things like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So.
But he's just like, no, it's good. It's good. We're
plant
feeding
food.
the plants.
Yeah,
We're feeding the plants.
And I've read some of Senator Inhofe's papers because I took science in college, so I had to report on something, and I chose climate change. And so, yeah, I've read the argument that CO2 helps plants, which is dumb.
Yeah.
It's not like we can. I mean, so it kind of gives me a little hope that what we can do is eventually grow farms, and instead of using the product, bury it, and then we can pull the CO2 out of the atmosphere that way. But I mean, we're producing so much CO2, we're nowhere near like neutral or where that would work. But now I'm rambling on about something that doesn't matter.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the end of the story, really. I
Oh,
mean,
cool.
there's a few paragraphs long, but if anybody wants to check it out, just a weather buoy near the North Pole has reached melting point by Science Alert. Go check it out.
Yep, and I've got a story. Joe gave it to me because Joe's the man.
I like giving you things, Josh.
And this is from December 21st, 2016, and it's titled Merry Christmas. It's on Vocative, and it's titled Merry Christmas, Obama Signs Act That Gives Protection to Atheists by Jennings Brown. That was you, Matt. And I'll just read the article. When Bill Maher interviewed Barack Obama in November, he prodded the president about the status of atheists like himself. Feels like we're not included in the basket of diversity of America, which is odd because we are the biggest minority. Don't you think we should get a little more love? And Mayer asked Obama. With a month left of his presidency, Obama has finally given non-religious persons that love. On December 16th, Obama signed into law the Frank Wolf International Religious Freedom Act, the first religious bill passed in the U.S. to offer explicit protection to atheists. And what it does is it strengthens a 1998 religious freedom law, which established by the U.S. Commission on International Freedom, Religious Freedom, dedicated to protecting religious liberty around the world for 18 years. The office has investigated abuse of Christians, Jews, and religious minorities in other countries, but has never tracked instances of persecution against atheists. And now the law will include atheists. And so essentially what this does is it now recognizes atheists as a group of persons to be that can be followed and tracked as not as a hate crime, but as a persecuted group.
That's awesome, and I hope that can evolve and move into the military world. Because when I was in the military, they offer tons of tons of religious services.
Yeah.
So on Sundays, you had an option to go to the Buddhist church and the Mormon church, the Muslim, and I went to all of them because they didn't offer any sort of atheistic
Like a secular
group. Yes. And if you stayed back and didn't go to church, you had to do like bitch work. So you either go to fairy tale land,
Yeah.
or stay back and clean and do bitch work while everybody's sitting on their ass,
Like cleaning toilets and shit like that.
Sounds like-
So that should absolutely move into the military world, and they should offer some sort of service or something. I did recently hear that now they have humanist representatives in the church, or in the military. So that's a good thing.
And it sounds like jail to me. In jail. So a bit of an actual confession. I've been to jail a couple of times, and if you're not religious, you don't get those same breaks that they do. So you say, "Yeah, I'll go to church." I don't
Really?
want to be stuck in this cell forever.
How many times have you been to jail?
Twice.
Josh?
Yep.
Interesting.
You're a horrible person.
Yeah.
I know. I'm terrible.
I don't even know if I want to be in the same room as you.
Well, drinking is bad, man. You
Yeah.
guys both drink, and you guys are both drinking right now.
I'm not. I'm just drinking coffee.
Oh, I thought it had a little bit of booze in it.
Nope.
No? Oh, good
no
job.
booze at all. I drank last night. That's
Yeah.
one reason why I'm drinking just coffee right now.
Well, I think that was good of Obama to do that. Yeah, so good job, Obama.
Yeah. Thanks, Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
God, and it sucks. We're losing him as a president. Like, I wish that he kicked as much ass in the whole time he was president as he has in his last 2 months. But whatever.
Yep. He has released over 1,000 nonviolent drug offenders.
God, and I hope.
really?
I hope
Yeah.
he gets around to releasing what's
Chelsea Manning?
Yeah.
Yep.
I really hope so. Really.
Yep.
How many more days does he have?
Next Friday.
Yeah,
This
5 more days.
this coming Friday.
5 more days.
There's a couple of things he could do.
Well, Chelsea Manning would be hopefully one of them.
Yes.
And then pardon who? Snowden?
That would be good too. But
Yeah.
Snowden even said, "Hey, Obama,
Do Chelsea Manning.
If you have one to choose, if you can get one pardon, and choose her, not me, it might save her life."
Yeah. She's tried to commit suicide, I think, twice now at Fort Leavenworth prison.
Ugh.
Alrighty, so the next story, guys, is coming from guys, the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Another one from them. So the U.S. Senate is finally addressing the concerns the Kerns of freethinkers. The Freedom from Religion Foundation, the nation's largest non-theistic organization, sought to put these matters front and center in a list of questions it recently sent to the Senate Judiciary Committee to ask Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General nominee. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat from Rhode Island, a member of the committee, seemed to be channeling the letter during the confirmation hearings, and he asked Jeff Sessions this question. Now let's listen.
Holding office.
And a secular person has just as good a claim to understanding the truth as a person who is religious, correct?
Well, I'm not sure. Holding office.
And see, what pisses me off, like, I read the quote, and he says, well, I'm not sure, is in the quote, but you don't know, like, the tone. And just to tell you, like, when he says, well, I'm not sure, he gets the biggest fucking shit-eating smirk on his face. Like, I just want to fucking slap it off of him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, because he's being fucking holier than thou. Like, of course, but I can't say it, but I'm going to put it in my eyes and on my face.
Yep. Being very condescending.
Yeah, I mean, and what a little bitch. Like, Jeff Sessions is such a fucking lying hypocrite. Like, he goes around and says, oh, they're persecuting me for being a racist, and I'm not a racist, and so forth and so on. But it's like, you enact racist policies. You allow laws that have come into place that make it harder for individuals, minorities, to vote. The voter ID laws in Alabama are bullshit. And yet you go ahead and you smirk because you think that you're better than other people. Like, you honestly do, and you're a piece of shit for that.
During a panel discussion at the Republican National Convention last year, in reference to Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor's comment that there is no objective stance but only a series of perspectives, Sessions reportedly stated, if you have secularization in the world and don't believe in a higher being, maybe you don't believe there is any truth.
Oh, my God.
And sorry for going on the rant in the middle of your story.
No, I like that, to do a little, we can talk, do a little more. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, like, I wasn't trying to, like, steal your thunder, but yeah.
No, it's good. So, yeah, he's a piece of shit. He also said that good people don't smoke marijuana. And I'm nervous what he's going to do when it comes to marijuana in states that have legalized it recreationally or medicinally. And what another point is, Jeff Sessions and the Republican Party, they are the people that are always screaming states' rights, but when it comes to marijuana and states' rights, we'll have to see what they do.
And see, here's my thought, though. Like, the marijuana people, if they're nothing else, they're fucking unified. So when he tries to go into Colorado and try and enforce some of the federal laws there, you know what's going to happen? The popularity is going to sink. And when that starts to happen, then Trump will finally give a fuck because he cares about his popularity. And he'll step in and say, you know what? Maybe you don't need to enforce that. And Jeff Sessions will back the fuck off.
You think so?
Yeah, I really do. I think that the marijuana movement in the United States, I wish that people understood a lot of the laws as well as they understand marijuana laws and marijuana rights. Like,
yeah.
Even in Utah, like we're putting up a good fight to try and get the
medical,
medicinal, but it's not the kind you smoke. It's the kind you ingest or whatever.
Yeah,
CBD oil.
Yeah, but like even in Utah, like more people are for legalizing marijuana or some form of medical marijuana in Utah than are against it. And Utah's a majority Mormon state, so that means that even Mormons are a number of Mormons are for it. Like,
yeah,
marijuana and the benefits of marijuana are just like so overwhelming that everybody's getting on board with that. I think that this is going to be a really fast moving subject, and that in 20 years, like, we'll be like, how stupid were we to allow the pharmacies to stop us from having the ability or access to medical marijuana?
Yeah, the politician here in Utah that has brought the bill to get CBD oil legalized is a Republican and is Mormon.
Oh, who was it? Madsen?
Yes, Madsen.
And he actually said he went to Colorado.
He had extreme back pain, I think.
Yeah.
And his doctor here in Utah said, try CBD oil. So he went to fucking Colorado and tried it.
Yeah.
And he said it helped him.
Yeah. Yep. And so
there's plenty of doctors in here that say or in Utah that say stuff like that. my fiance, her doctor, once told her, she's like, I'm not legally allowed to say this, so I didn't say this. But if you can get a hold of some marijuana, I suggest that you do, and stuff. It'll help with your nausea. It'll help with your eating. It'll help with this. It'll help with that. It'll help with this, and that's what you need.
But the mind blowing thing is on the criminal side of it, like the laws as I understand it, like it's still on a mandatory minimum law. Like it's so stupid. It's so stupid. But hopefully, when we all get in positions of power, like when this younger generation, millennials, start taking over offices, like it'll be fast moving, and hopefully the younger generations, our generation, is smart enough to really strengthen the laws when it comes to that, and really weaken the laws when it comes to drugs. Because I mean, you're talking about throwing 6 people in prison and in jail for like second, third offenses, and not giving them any rehabilitation.
Absolutely.
It's incredibly sad.
Yes.
All right, Joe, do you have a story for us?
I do have a story. It's coming from Vice. The author is Lauren Messman. Parents are upset about a teacher's 300-pound pentagram display.
I love it.
Yeah. The installation showed up earlier this month in Boca Raton's Free Expression Zone, complete with the words, "May the children hail Satan." Earlier this month, a middle school teacher set up a gigantic pentagram in a public park in downtown Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh, it's not even at the school?
No, it's not. It's not even at the school. So listen to this article. It's gonna bother the shit out of you.
All
right. So the city had approved the installation, which was placed next to a nativity scene and featured the words, "May the children hail Satan." Police have responded to vandalism reports at the display 8 different times, according to Palm Beach Sun-Sentinel. Ads. Preston Smith, the English teacher who created the installation, is an atheist and believes that the city should allow all forms of religious expression. "We are here to call out Christian hypocrisy and theistic base in taxpayer-funded public arenas while advocating for the separation of church and state," he told the Associated Press. The president of Boca Raton Community Middle School's Parent-Teacher Association appears to be on the other side of the argument and thinks Smith should be fired. Yeah. "A teacher we entrust our children with should not be putting a sign like this anywhere," PTSA President Kim Bremer told WPT-TV on Tuesday. About a dozen protesters and counter-protesters held signs and stood outside of the school, many of whom were parents calling for Smith's dismissal, the Palm Beach Post reports. He had a blatant disregard for the feelings of the kids and how this would affect them, Lauren Kalina, a parent, told the Post. "He's undermining our beliefs. That's why I have a problem with this." Smith, though, said that his personal beliefs don't make it inside the classroom, and he doesn't disparage any child's personal faith. Although he was absent from school Wednesday, he does not plan to step down. "Students have an uncanny ability to be more tolerant, respectful, and educated about diversity than most adults," he said in a statement to WPTV. "There is a mutual understanding not to discuss the display with me on campus." For his part, the school's superintendent, Dr. Robert Avosa, seems to be siding with Smith. "We certainly can't micromanage what an individual does outside of the schoolhouse," he told WPTV. "This isn't the first time this individual has participated in an activity like that. What we do is answer any questions as they come up at the school." Smith is an avid activist for keeping church and state separate, something the Satanic Temple has stepped in to defend in fights all across the country. Satanic Temple co-founder and spokesman Lucian Greaves railed behind Smith by sending his own email to Bremer. Greaves explained the situation like this: send a specific message to non-Christian members of the community, in this case young kids. And here's the letter. "If the PTSA were to be successful in destroying Preston Smith's career, it would send a very clear message to children that one religious voice enjoys exclusive preference while others are not allowed," Greaves told Vice over the email. "That's why I vowed to place an after-school Satan club in the middle of in the middle school if the PTSA and parents continue to harass Mr. Smith. Installing an after-school Satan club will counteract the message of exclusive religious privilege and reassert constitutional protected pluralism.
I love it.
But there's more to the article. It's a man, yeah. I like how it's just like he's not doing anything at school. He's not doing, it's his personal life, you know, and he doesn't bring his personal life and his beliefs and his knowledge, his personal beliefs or whatever, to the school. And he's not teaching the kids, Satanism or atheism or anything like that. But these parents are still getting pissed because he's part of a group and he's trying to fight separation of church and state.
Yeah. He's part of the out group, and the persecution complex by those parents, like the one you quoted that said something about he's undermining our religious beliefs, is utter bullshit. He is expressing a different belief. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
You express yours, he can express his, and how is that undermining your religious belief? It's utter hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this reminded me of another story, if you don't mind, and we can talk more
Yeah,
about
I don't
it.
mind at all.
This will be my second to last story, and this is from Salt Lake City, KUTV.
Oh, yeah.
And the after-school Satan Club has arrived at a Utah elementary school. The Satanic Temple, a group of that describes itself as an atheistic religious organization that uses the symbol of Satan to inspire civil justice. It said the decision to spread their message to elementary schools is in direct response to Christian groups who operate after-school clubs in public schools. The organization kicked off an open house on Wednesday, according to Salt Lake Tribune. The Tribune media partner is the media partner of KUTV. Also spoke to Chalice Blythe, the chapter head in the Utah of Satanic Temple. The Tribune was denied access to the open house by the Granite School District. And this is what the quote is we are non-theistic. We do not actually worship a literal Satan. We're very aware that not everyone is going to understand what it's about. They'll see the word Satan and just make an assumption. We are sure that school districts we've approached are well aware that they are not at liberty to deny us the use of the facilities. So again, so we praise the Satanists not because we think there's a literal Satan and we just hate Christianity or we hate religion so much that we're willing to
worship Satan.
Yeah, even though it's badass to worship Satan.
Hail Satan.
The point is that we want separation of church and state, and so the only way that you're going to get your Christian clubs out of schools is if we start putting Satan clubs in schools. So we want. What we really want is separation of church and state, and so the reason that made me think of this story is because it made me think of how I got the story originally. Was my friend posted it, and his grandma posted on his thing, and she was like, "Oh, Fred, you're not going to this, right?" And he's like, "No, I'm not. It's just kind of a joke." And he shouldn't have backpedaled that much in my mind. He should have said, "Hey, this is not a theistic thing." She's like, "Yeah, because those Satan clubs will kill you, and I don't want to lose you to it." And it's like, no,
they'll sacrifice you.
Yeah,
type.
That's not what it's about. It's not about trying to take your religious belief away. And I honestly, I would have a lot of respect for a Christian who joined the Satanist group, because it's not about Satan, a literal Satan. It's about separation of church and state, and that's something that we should all be willing to get behind.
Absolutely.
So, hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
Yeah, those are two great stories. Two great stories. And I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad the evil Satanists are doing what they're doing.
And I'm glad that they're bringing it here in Utah. And we should actually take some time to find Chalice Blythe. Yeah, it is Chalice Blythe. We should find her and talk to her at some point. One of us should.
Maybe we can try to get her on the podcast.
That would be cool.
That'd be way cool.
I'd be way down.
And then
for
she
that.
can talk about how it's going, how the first meeting went, and all that stuff. So
yeah. Alrighty, so our next story. Last year, you guys, in Tennessee, not a religious state at all, they tried to pass a bill that made the Holy Bible the official state book.
Oh, duh.
So it was vetoed by the governor. So
thank God.
Good job, governor.
Awesome.
And it's kind of come in the news again, so here we go. The sponsors of Tennessee's failed bill to make the Holy Bible the official state book are divided on whether to give the legislation new life. Senator Steve Sutherland, Republican, said Wednesday he does not plan on bringing back the measure which Governor Bill Haslam vetoed last year. If the governor is going to veto it, there's no point in doing it, Sutherland said. Last April, House members failed to override Haslam's veto, just his fourth since he entered office in 2011. But the bill's House sponsor, Representative Jerry Sexton, Republican, a former Baptist minister, was not as firm. During a brief interview, Sexton said he has not ruled out the possibility of bringing back the controversial bill. He declined to provide additional information. So, even though it failed, it was vetoed. This jackass, who used to be a minister, might bring this bill in to make the Holy Bible the state book. And what a waste of time. There are so many other things that we could be worrying about. And I've had people tell me, like, why do you care if they're putting a cross up? Why do you care if they're doing this? There's so many more important things going on in the world. Exactly.
Yeah,
You
that's why I
dumbass.
care.
There are more important things to worry about. Keep your religion out of the fucking government, and let's fix real problems.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like, immediately after that gets passed, I guarantee you that some legal organization is just going to sue the state, and then they'll have to take it down because it's a clear violation of the First Amendment. So clear. Like, I mean, like, I can't believe that anybody who understands the law, such as legislators presumably do, would even like consider it. Like, it's a joke. It's a joke. It'd be like if Utah tried to make the Book of Mormon the state book. Like, it just wouldn't fly. And same with, like, or in California, the one of L. Ron Hubbard's books.
Scientology.
Yeah, it's just stupid. It's so stupid.
I just feel like America can be so fucking ass backwards. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to religion and secularism, separation of church and state. And then you look at places like Iceland, and it's like, fuck, why can't we be more like Iceland?
Yeah, and I think that this is somewhat by design. I think that what they want us to do is and this is it's a powerful political move to divide people and try and get them riled up. So when you say, oh, they're attacking our religion, look at the atheists attacking our religion, it tends to get people riled up because they feel like part of their core identity is being attacked.
Yeah.
But what they should be worried about is things like climate change and equal rights and things like that, where if because most Christians are decent people, if they really thought about it and didn't feel like they were constantly under attack like Fox News wants them to believe, they would be getting involved in things that actually matter.
Well, and that's the thing. They want to keep us separated on many different issues so they can turn around and pass laws that benefit them. So we're not paying attention to what they're doing. That's what I honestly think politicians are doing. That's all they do. This whole Fox News is fucking fake articles, CNN fake articles, they're keeping us separated. They're keeping us arguing. They're keeping us, at each other's throats. So they can turn around and pass laws and pass bills that will put more money in their pockets.
Yep. Okay, so this is my last story. This upsets me, and we were trying to kind of get away from the politics. It feels like because it's so damn depressing.
It really is.
So we've been talking more about secularism, but this one is about politics. It's from The Intercept, titled "Cory Booker Joins Senate Republicans to Kill Measure to Import Cheaper Medicine from Canada," written by Zaid Jilani and David Dayan. This is dated January 12, 2017, and just to read the beginning, Bernie Sanders introduced a very simple symbolic amendment Wednesday night, urging the federal government to allow Americans to purchase pharmaceutical drugs from Canada, where they are considerably cheaper. Such unrestricted drug importation is currently prohibited by law. The policy has widespread support among Americans. One Kaiser poll in 2015 found that 72% of Americans are in favor of allowing importation. President-elect Donald Trump also campaigned on a promise to allow importation. The Senate voted down the amendment 52-46, with 2 senators not voting. The usual vote along party lines was not purely along party lines. 13 Republicans, which would be enough to make the difference, joined Bernie Sanders, and a majority of Democrats in supporting the amendment, while 13 Democrats and a majority of Republicans opposed it. One of those Democrats was New Jersey's Cory Booker, who is considered a rising star in the party and possibly a 2020 presidential contender. The main reason I want to talk about this story is to make you more aware of who Cory Booker is, because he is going to be running for president in 2020. I guarantee it. Like there's just no doubt in my mind. People have called him Obama light. People have talked about him being the next Obama. He fights a lot for civil rights because he fights for civil rights and he talks a mean game when he's going against Republicans. But in this circumstance, he used this cop out like, oh, we don't know if the FDA hasn't approved all the drugs from Canada, therefore we can't have them because I'm not sure that they're safe for you. And it's nonsense, because the drugs that we need, the drugs that it would make more accessible are drugs that we already use. Like, they're the same fucking drugs.
Yeah. Exactly the same.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, Canadian medicine is like, if we were getting them from like Colombia, then I'd be a little more worried. But we're getting them from Canada, and he won't join it. And this was proposed by Bernie Sanders. Like,
Yeah.
It's so stupid. But guess who gets a lot of money from the pharmaceutical companies?
Booker?
Cory Booker. Guess who gets a lot of money from the financial industry? Cory Booker. So when it comes to issues that are going to affect his donors, he's just as bad as any of the corporate Democrats that we're sick and tired of. Like, it's mind-boggling that he took that position.
And that shows you that both sides are corrupt and are puppets for their donors.
Oh, yeah.
When you have this many Republicans say yes and this many Democrats say no, and the majorities are on their stereotypical side, but a big 13 or 10 or 12 voting the opposite, that's a large number.
Yeah.
And especially for something that is for the good of the people. And you said 72% of Americans. So a huge majority of Americans want this, and they vote against it.
Yeah. Of course. That's the thing. Most of these politicians are supposed to be for the people. If the people want something, they're supposed to represent them and act on it. And they're not doing that. Why else would they not be doing that, people? Why else would they not be doing that? You know? They're in it for the donors. They're in it for the money, you know? And Bernie Sanders called most of these people out on that shit during his campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again,
And so did Trump.
One of the things, so one of the things Bernie Sanders, so you really should follow Bernie Sanders and what he's doing in the Senate right now, because, and he's come out so fiery, and the cameras are actually on him now, so because he's raised his profile during the presidential campaign. But he does this thing, there's either a voice vote or a roll call, and a voice vote means that you just say yay or nay, and the person who's in charge declares who won.
Yeah.
But then you don't have to put your name on it. Now, Bernie Sanders is doing everything that he's doing now is by roll call, so we can tell who the fake progressives are.
Yeah.
And he wants them on record, so we can figure out who is not an actual progressive, but who works for the Democrats, supposedly. So now we know Cory Booker is going to side with his donors.
Yeah.
And there has been a follow-up on this where he said that he's going to push to try and get something like this passed, and we'll have to wait and see. And I hope that he does. I hope that Cory Booker changes his tune and finds a way where he feels comfortable doing it and pushes for that. But I won't believe it until I see it.
Yeah.
Because it affects his donors way
that's
too much.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's not going to do it. He's just going to say he's going to do it just so he can get more support. But he's not going to do shit.
Yeah, so hopefully next week we're telling a story about how Cory Booker saved the bill somehow, but I don't think that's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so it's the last story.
Let's do it.
And it's on Mary Jane.
Your favorite subject.
So a huge scientific study refutes the federal government's stance on marijuana. The story is coming from Think Progress. So in the federal drug classification scheme, marijuana is classed at the very top. It is considered to be a Schedule I substance, a category reserved for drugs with a high potential for abuse and no accepted medical use. For years, however, scientists have done study after study showing that this classification is misguided. On Thursday, the National Academy of Sciences put one more nail in the coffin with one of the most thorough reviews of the research to date. A massive 396-page report on 10,000 research studies on marijuana assessing therapeutic benefits and risk factors. The review, conducted by a panel of experts led by Harvard public health researcher Mary McCormick, is broken out into 100 different conclusions, many of which are assessments of the current state of the research. It is particularly significant, however, that the review states quite clearly that there is conclusive or substantial evidence that marijuana is effective for the treatment of chronic pain as a tonic for nausea and vomiting in cancer patients undergoing chemotherapy, and in treating spasticity in multiple sclerosis patients. Given that our federal government still considers it Schedule 1, which means there are no accepted medical benefits, this is a pretty clear refutation of that. Taylor West, the Deputy Director of the National Cannabis Industry Associated, told Think Progress. So, I mean, this is coming from Harvard, from the National Academy of Science, basically telling the U.S. government, you guys are full of shit. This shouldn't be a Schedule 1.
Yeah.
And didn't the DEA just, like a month ago, they looked at marijuana and I think CBD to see if it should be reclassified, and they're like, nope, still Schedule 1.
Yep.
Yeah, they did look at it. God, and again, this is so. American people want marijuana to be legal, like, or at least to some degree, to some extent, they want medical marijuana available. But this is where the government, if you're not catching on to the theme, the government gets money from, or the politicians get money from Big Pharma, and Big Pharma does not want marijuana legalized because of the money they would lose out on. Because it's easy to grow marijuana. I think at least one of us have attempted at least one point in their life.
Maybe 2 out of 3.
Yeah, maybe 2 out of 3. But, so what we need to do, and this is, again, something that I think is going to change in the next 20 years, is we need to stand up and say, hey, federal government, guess what? You work for us. Stop it. Like, we understand what's going on. We're not science illiterate. We understand that you're just holding out because it benefits the politicians and the donors.
Yep. All right.
The cancer research and all that stuff, man.
Little more from the article. Marijuana has also been floated as a potential treatment for a whole host of other disorders, such as easing insomnia relating to painful syndromes, increasing appetite in people with HIV and AIDS, decreasing severe anxiety, and combating the effects of PTSD. Although there's moderate to limited evidence supporting marijuana's effectiveness, the report found the research here isn't yet conclusive. Now, why is that so important? So that is so important because Schedule 1 drugs,
the evidence should be conclusive.
Well, if you're Schedule 1 drugs, you cannot research on them. Yeah. So it's so hard for them to do the research. So if they could at least reschedule it to Schedule 2, then colleges, universities all over the nation would get grants and they would research it. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah.
And then all this shit would have conclusive evidence if they were actually able to do real studies on it.
Yeah.
So,
and that's another thing, though, like what I was saying. I think if you're going to schedule something, a Schedule 1 drug, then you must have overwhelming conclusive evidence that that is harmful. And they don't have conclusive evidence that it's harmful. The only government-funded federal research they did on marijuana was one study back in the 50s. It was one study. And do you know what they did? They put gas masks on monkeys and pumped them full of marijuana smoke constantly, consecutively. You know, those monkeys didn't even get a break. Do you know what happened? The monkeys died because of asphyxiation. Okay? And then they autopsied the monkeys and found that they had dead brain cells. Look at what marijuana did. You know? No. And everyone knows it was because of the asphyxiation that it killed brain cells.
Yeah, it's not the marijuana smoke. It's the lack of oxygen.
that fucking killed the monkeys and that caused brain damage and stuff. And more studies are showing that marijuana actually causes cell rejuvenation and stuff. And so it can actually heal cells. And so That's the thing. The government did, and why did they do that one study back in the 50s? Does anybody know why?
I'm guessing that has to do with the theme.
Yeah, paper. So there was a politician who had a lot of money in paper, and guess what?
That's even older than that.
Oh, is that even
Yeah,
older?
it's the DuPont guy. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
that's
that's
from
right.
like the 30s or
Yeah,
but yeah, he
Oh,
was.
but the reefer madness and all that stuff.
Yeah, and there was another political reason for doing it is because the migrant workers from Mexico who would come up and work in the season, they didn't have the money to afford alcohol, so the growers would allow them to grow marijuana plants, and then at the end of the season, they could say, "Oh, look at them, they have marijuana plants, let's kick them out of the country."
Yeah.
Like, there's all sorts of shady reasons why marijuana was made illegal initially.
Yeah. And so you got one botched study that makes marijuana illegal, but then you have thousands, 10,000s of different studies that show that marijuana is actually good for you, and they won't legalize it still because politicians are still making money from big pharma.
Sure, and I do want to say, what a way to go.
Yeah.
Hot box to death.
I know, huh?
suck.
That would suck. That would suck.
Well, no, I mean, like, you'd be so high and then you just, like, stop breathing. Like,
Yeah.
like, out of... It probably wouldn't be that favorable of a way to go, but just imagine that. Like, you get high until you can't breathe anymore and you die.
Yeah.
It'd be like dying from an overdose from heroin, I guess. Ugh. But
Legalize and
still
regulate.
Pump that much marijuana smoke into the monkeys, and they died from asphyxiation. So they didn't even die from an overdose. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's still funny. Like, you can't overdose on marijuana. You know, and that study alone fucking proves it. You know, even though they botched the study.
yeah, but I think I have a couple people. If that was if they could sign up to do that to like get high until they die, I have a couple friends who might volunteer.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. Well, I think that's the end of the podcast.
I think it was a pretty good podcast.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Remember, you can find us on Spreaker and on YouTube, and check out our other YouTube channels, The Evil Atheists and ZZZ Giant Awake.
Join us on the Evil Atheist Facebook group page.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you ever delete the other?
I deleted the other one. So if you type into Facebook, The Evil Atheists, and atheist is plural, you'll find the group. Request join. We'll add you.
Even if you're religious.
Well, maybe.
Well, I mean,
It depends if they're going to troll.
yeah, don't troll.
Well, we should let them troll, and then we can have fun with it. Like, I have fun being an anti-troll, I have to admit.
All right.
Which in turns makes you a troll?
I don't know. Makes maybe the king troll.
Mm.
But yeah, it's time to wrap it up. So, outro music. Cue.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Think passionate.